Yellowstone, the last time it erupted, it was 2,500 times more intense than Mount St. Helens, covering vast regions in ash, cooling the planet, and leaving a lasting mark on history. Over 350 earthquakes occurred in a single month. Yet, in the past year alone, Yellowstone has been shifting, stirring, and adjusting more than usual. Is Yellowstone preparing for a new chapter? Or is this simply part of the Earth's natural rhythm? Let's find out. 70,000 years ago, the Earth convulsed as a supervolcano beneath what is now Yellowstone National Park erupted with unimaginable force. After thousands of years of building pressure, the ground ruptured, triggering an explosion over 2,500 times more powerful than the Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980. More than 1,000 cubic kilometers of molten rock, ash, and debris blasted into the sky, burying entire regions under hundreds of feet of volcanic fallout. If this happened today, much of the United States would be covered in toxic ash, disrupting agriculture, shutting down infrastructure, and triggering global chaos. The scale of Yellowstone's last supereruption is staggering. Over 240 cubic miles of volcanic material erupted, enough to fill Sydney Harbor 4,500 times. A dense ash cloud shot 25 miles into the sky, blocking sunlight for months. Scientists believe this caused a volcanic winter, lowering global temperatures for decades. On the ground, pyroclastic flows, searing avalanches of gas, ash, and debris, raced at over 300 miles per hour, incinerating everything in their path. Even thousands of miles away, volcanic ash poisoned water supplies and suffocated crops and animals. Yellowstone has erupted 3 times in the last 2,100,000 years, with intervals between 600,000 and 800,000 years. So is another eruption overdue? Not necessarily. Scientists stress that volcanoes don't erupt on a fixed schedule. Research shows that while Yellowstone's magma chamber is massive, only 5 to 15% is molten, far below the 50% threshold needed for a supereruption. According to the United States Geological Survey, the odds of this happening in our lifetime are around 1 in 73,000, the same as a civilization-ending asteroid impact. Yet Yellowstone is very much alive. Over the past 50 years, the ground has risen nearly 3 feet, and in 2023 alone, scientists detected 354 earthquakes beneath the park in a single month. While this is considered normal, it raises an unsettling question. If Yellowstone were to erupt again, would we see it coming? The last time it exploded, no humans were there to witness it. But today we have the tools to study, to track, and to understand it. To grasp Yellowstone's true power, we need to understand what sets a supervolcano apart from any other volcano and why scientists are keeping such a close watch. Unlike typical eruptions that come from smaller magma reservoirs, supervolcanoes operate on an entirely different scale. Beneath Yellowstone lies a colossal magma chamber spanning 55 miles across, one of the largest ever discovered. But Yellowstone doesn't just erupt, it evolves. Over thousands of years, magma steadily accumulates, creating an enormous pressurized system. As molten rock seeps in, the land above swells. Is this a sign of magma building up? Or is it just part of the natural breathing of the Earth? The real danger lies in the pressure. If enough gas and molten rock become trapped with no escape, the crust could eventually crack, unleashing an eruption unlike anything seen in modern history. Scientists estimate that if Yellowstone were to erupt at full force, it could eject over 600 cubic miles of volcanic material, covering much of North America in toxic ash, plunging temperatures worldwide, and disrupting ecosystems for decades. In 2017, NASA proposed a bold and controversial plan, drilling into Yellowstone's magma chamber and pumping in cold water to absorb heat, potentially cooling the system and delaying, or even preventing, an eruption. But this idea carries enormous risk. Yellowstone's magma is highly pressurized, and any drilling could weaken the crust, triggering the very disaster scientists hope to prevent. Even if the plan worked, NASA estimates it would take tens of thousands of years to fully cool the system if it worked at all. Yellowstone isn't the only supervolcano on Earth, but it is one of the most closely monitored. The Toba eruption in Indonesia, around 74,000 years ago, caused a volcanic winter that some scientists believe nearly wiped out early humans. The Taupo supervolcano in New Zealand erupted approximately 26,500 years ago, with its impact felt across the globe. But Yellowstone is different. It sits beneath one of the most densely populated nations on Earth. And unlike ancient supervolcanoes that have fallen silent, Yellowstone is still active. Thousands of small earthquakes shake the region every year. The ground continues to rise and fall. The geysers and hot springs bubble, fueled by the heat deep below. Yet, despite scientific reassurances, the ground continues to rise, the earthquakes keep coming, and the question remains, are these routine tremors? Or are we witnessing the first stirrings of a catastrophe in the making? Before we continue, I have a special 10-second request for all of you listening. If you can help me in any way, just press the notification bell and hit that subscribe button. It means the world. It really supports this channel. And if you do that for me, I promise my team and I will do everything we can to make this show even better for you. Deal? Every year, Yellowstone's ground lifts by 1 to 2 inches, a seemingly minor shift, but in geological terms, it signals powerful forces at work beneath the surface. Between 2004 and 2010, parts of the caldera rose by nearly 10 inches, one of the fastest uplift rates ever recorded. Satellite data confirms that this movement is ongoing. Is Yellowstone quietly preparing for another eruption, or is this just the supervolcano breathing? The earthquakes tell another story. In March 2023, seismographs at the University of Utah detected 354 earthquakes in Yellowstone, almost double the usual activity for that time of year. Most were too small to feel, but one stood out, a magnitude 3.7 tremor, strong enough to rattle buildings and remind the world that Yellowstone is still alive. And this wasn't an isolated event. In 2021, more than 1,000 earthquakes struck in a single month. Between 2020 and 2024, over 3,000 minor tremors were recorded. In June 2024, a single 24-hour period saw a cluster of 127 earthquakes. Could this be the early tremors of something far more dangerous? According to the United States Geological Survey and the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, the threat of an eruption remains low. Only 5 to 15% of Yellowstone's massive magma chamber is molten, far below the 50% threshold needed for a supereruption. Many of these earthquakes are caused by shifting underground fluids and faults, not rising magma. Even the rapid uplift between 2004 and 2010 eventually slowed without an eruption. But there are still critical unknowns. Could a supervolcano erupt with little warning? Unlike typical volcanoes, some researchers believe a supereruption may not come with clear signals. How much magma is really there? Seismic imaging provides estimates, but no one has drilled deep enough to confirm them. But if Yellowstone's activity is already raising concerns, what would happen if every volcano on Earth decided to erupt at once? Across the planet, there are over 1,500 active volcanoes, each capable of unleashing destruction. If they all erupted simultaneously, the world as we know it would collapse in an instant. Mount Etna in Sicily would blanket Europe in ash. Yellowstone would awaken, shrouding North America in darkness. Iceland's volcanoes would release massive amounts of toxic gas, while the Pacific Ring of Fire, home to 75% of the world's active volcanoes, would violently explode, triggering tsunamis that swallow entire coastlines. The sheer force of a planet-wide eruption would be unlike anything humanity has ever faced. But the real catastrophe wouldn't come from lava, it would come from the sky. If every volcano erupted at once, billions of tons of ash and sulfur dioxide would be hurled into the stratosphere, blocking sunlight and plunging Earth into darkness. Global temperatures could drop by 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, creating a volcanic winter. The last time something even remotely similar happened was in 1815, when the Mount Tambora eruption triggered the year without a summer. Crops failed, famine spread, and societies collapsed. But if all volcanoes erupted at once, the consequences would be far worse. Agriculture would be wiped out entirely, leading to mass starvation. Poisonous acid rain would contaminate water supplies. Entire regions would become uninhabitable, buried under toxic ash. A new ice age could begin. Could humanity survive? Earth has faced volcanic devastation before. 252 million years ago, the Great Dying wiped out 90% of all species, triggered by massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia. 66 million years ago, the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction, which ended the dinosaurs, may have been caused not just by an asteroid but by massive eruptions in the Deccan Traps of India. 74,000 years ago, the Toba supereruption may have nearly wiped out early humans, reducing their numbers to just a few thousand. So, could every volcano erupt at once? Probably not. But could a chain reaction of supereruptions trigger another mass extinction? Absolutely. Earth has seen it before. If the world's volcanoes erupted at once, how would humanity survive? Could we? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Wildlife has long been nature's early warning system, sensing disasters before humans even detect a threat. Before the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, elephants sprinted inland, flamingos abandoned their nests, and dogs refused to leave shelter. In 1980, weeks before Mount St. Helens erupted, deer and bears were seen fleeing long before evacuation orders were issued. And then, in March 2023, Yellowstone rangers noticed something strange: bison herds galloping at full speed, as if escaping an unseen force. Coincidence? Or do animals possess a survival instinct we have yet to fully understand? Scientists believe that many species can detect disasters before they occur, using heightened senses to pick up on ground tremors, shifts in air pressure, and volcanic gases. Wolves and deer sense vibrations long before humans. Birds detect air pressure changes and flee before storms. Elephants communicate through low-frequency rumbles that can pick up seismic shifts. So if Yellowstone were to erupt, would the animals be the first to warn us? And if they started running, would we follow? But where do they go when the world itself is collapsing? Flames consume the forests. The roads crack. Every second counts. Do you trust the animals and follow, or hesitate and risk everything? Science supports the idea that animals sense disasters before humans do. Studies from the United States Geological Survey confirm that animals detect seismic activity minutes to hours before major earthquakes. Research from the National Wildlife Institute found that elephants in Africa moved away from volcanic zones up to a week before minor eruptions. Even NASA is studying whether animal behavior could serve as an early warning system for natural disasters. While humans rely on technology to predict catastrophe, animals listen to the Earth itself. But if animals can sense disasters before they strike, what are they reacting to beneath Yellowstone? Just surface tremors, or something far more massive stirring deep underground? In 2015, researchers from the University of Utah uncovered a discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about Yellowstone. Beneath the park, the magma chamber wasn't just massive, it was far larger than scientists had ever estimated. Using advanced seismic imaging, researchers mapped the underground reservoirs responsible for fueling Yellowstone's geysers and hot springs. What they found was staggering. Not one, but two enormous magma chambers stacked beneath each other, one closer to the surface, the other deeper in the Earth's mantle. The lower chamber alone turned out to be nearly 5 times bigger than previously believed. Together, these chambers contain enough molten rock to fill the Grand Canyon 11 times over. This revelation wasn't just a breakthrough in geology, it raised a question. If we underestimated the sheer volume of magma, have we also underestimated the true power of a Yellowstone eruption? For years, scientists believed that an eruption would only occur if the upper magma chamber became highly pressurized. But this new data suggests something more unsettling. The deeper chamber may be feeding the system, increasing pressure from below in ways we still don't fully understand. According to the United States Geological Survey, only 5 to 15% of the upper chamber is currently molten, far below the 50% threshold needed for an eruption. But what about the deeper chamber? How does it influence Yellowstone's overall activity? Could it be slowly building towards something unexpected? The more we uncover about this supervolcano, the more we realize just how little control we have over it. If Yellowstone's magma chambers are far larger than we ever imagined, what other volcanic threats have we overlooked, especially in a place as unexpected as Antarctica? In 2017, researchers from the University of Edinburgh made a discovery that reshaped our understanding of Antarctica. Far from being just a frozen wasteland, the continent conceals one of the largest volcanic regions on Earth. Beneath the western Antarctic ice sheet, scientists identified more than 130 volcanoes, making it the densest volcanic zone on the planet. Some of these massive formations rival the height of the Alps, yet they remain buried under more than 1 mile of ice. While Antarctica's ice is already melting due to rising global temperatures, recent studies suggest that hidden volcanic activity beneath the ice is accelerating the process. A 2024 NASA study found that geothermal heat from these volcanoes is warming parts of the ice sheet from below, melting glaciers faster than previously believed. One of the most concerning examples is the Pine Island Glacier, one of the fastest melting glaciers on Earth. It sits directly above an active volcanic hotspot, raising fears that eruptions beneath the ice could trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. If these volcanoes erupt, they won't just melt ice, they could unleash an unstoppable rise in sea levels, submerging coastal cities like New York, London, and Tokyo. Entire nations could be forced inland, marking the beginning of a new era of climate disaster. For years, scientists have focused on the Arctic when studying melting ice, but Antarctica may hold the real secret to our planet's future. And the more we uncover about its volcanic system, the more we realize how little we truly know. But what if the forces beneath Antarctica's ice and Yellowstone's restless magma are more connected than we think? Two ticking time bombs, each capable of reshaping the world in ways we are only beginning to understand? History has proven that supervolcanoes don't erupt without warning. Before Yellowstone's last supereruption 640,000 years ago, the entire region swelled for thousands of years, rising like an inflating dome. The Toba supereruption, one of the largest in human history, erupted 74,000 years ago after centuries of increasing seismic activity as magma pushed relentlessly against the Earth's crust. Even Mount St. Helens in 1980 sent months of warning signs, with small tremors leading up to its explosive eruption. But the real danger isn't always in the first signs, it's in the sudden release of pressure. Supervolcanoes follow a pattern known as the soda bottle effect, a slow buildup of pressure over thousands of years, much like shaking a sealed bottle of soda. At first, nothing happens. But the moment something breaks the seal, an earthquake, a crack in the crust, the trapped heat and gas explode outward, triggering an eruption of unimaginable scale. And Yellowstone is showing concerning signs today. Despite advances in science, supervolcanoes remain one of the least understood forces on Earth. Some researchers believe we would have decades of warning before an eruption. Others argue that a sudden shift in pressure could trigger catastrophe within weeks. According to the United States Geological Survey, there is no evidence that Yellowstone is preparing to erupt anytime soon. Yet, every time an earthquake swarm is detected, rumors spread like wildfire. In March 2024, a magnitude 3.7 earthquake struck Yellowstone, triggering social media panic. In June 2023, a surge in geyser activity led to sensational headlines claiming Yellowstone was waking up. In 2022, slight land uplift fueled doomsday theories. But the reality? Yellowstone has behaved this way for thousands of years. Activity does not equal eruption. Despite claims that the volcano is overdue, scientists confirm that volcanoes don't operate on schedules. Additionally, Yellowstone's upper magma chamber is only between 5 and 15% molten, far below the 50% threshold required for an eruption. And if Yellowstone were preparing to erupt, scientists would detect months, or even years, of warning signs through seismic monitoring, ground deformation measurements, and gas emissions tracking. Yet, despite expert reassurance, speculation continues. Some believe scientists are hiding the truth. Others question whether we're truly prepared. What if, against all odds, Yellowstone's supervolcano finally awakened? At ground zero, Yellowstone erupts with an earth-shattering explosion. A colossal column of molten rock, gas, and ash surges into the stratosphere, reaching more than 16 miles high. This blast would be 1,000 times more powerful than the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption. Everything within a 50-mile radius is instantly wiped out. Towns like Jackson, Cody, and Bozeman are engulfed by lava flows, their streets turning into rivers of fire. Within days, thick clouds of volcanic ash smother the entire United States. Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho are buried under 3 feet of ash. The Midwest, including Nebraska, Kansas, and even Chicago, is covered in 1 foot of fallout. A fine layer reaches the East Coast, dimming the sun over New York City. In 2010, a minor eruption in Iceland disrupted air travel across Europe for weeks. A Yellowstone eruption would be exponentially worse. Volcanic ash is lethal to aircraft, melting inside jet engines and causing catastrophic failure. Within hours, the Federal Aviation Administration halts all air travel across the United States. Global flight routes collapse, cutting off international trade and supply chains. But the worst is yet to come. The economic toll, a catastrophe beyond measure. The Federal Emergency Management Agency estimates that a Yellowstone supereruption could cause $3 trillion in damages in the United States alone, more than the combined costs of Hurricane Katrina, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Great Recession. Food shortages become an immediate crisis. With sunlight blocked, crops fail. In the United States, which produces 25% of the world's wheat supply, watches its farmland turn into barren wastelands. Grocery stores empty. Food prices skyrocket. Famine looms. As stock markets crash, businesses collapse, and global commerce disintegrates, financial hubs like New York, London, and Hong Kong go silent. Then comes mass displacement. Tens of millions of Americans flee the uninhabitable interior, overwhelming coastal regions and triggering a refugee crisis that ripples across the globe. The world as we know it was forever changed. Experts from NASA and the United States Geological Survey estimate that a Yellowstone supereruption could trigger a volcanic winter lasting between 3 and 10 years. Governments would be forced to implement strict food rationing, develop alternative energy solutions, and possibly even attempt geoengineering to counteract the cooling effects. Civilization would endure, but in a world reshaped by fire, ash, and survival. If Yellowstone's eruption could cripple a continent, what about the hundreds of other volcanoes lurking along the Ring of Fire? A volatile chain responsible for most of Earth's eruptions and earthquakes? Could one incident trigger another? The Ring of Fire is one of the most geologically volatile regions on Earth, a massive, horseshoe-shaped zone encircling the Pacific Ocean, stretching from South America to North America, across Asia and down to New Zealand. This fiery belt contains over 450 volcanoes, making up nearly 75% of all active and dormant volcanoes on the planet. It is also responsible for a staggering 90% of the world's earthquakes, according to the United States Geological Survey's 2025 report. While some volcanoes explode with devastating force, others release slow, flowing rivers of lava. Mount Etna, Europe's most active volcano, has erupted over 200 times, continuously spewing lava and ash while entire towns thrive on its slopes. Meanwhile, Iceland's newest volcano, born in 2023 on the Reykjanes Peninsula, erupted through fissures in the ground, marking what scientists believe could be the start of a new volcanic era lasting decades. According to the Icelandic Meteorological Office's 2025 analysis, Iceland has already experienced the chaos its volcanoes can unleash. When Eyjafjallajökull erupted in 2010, it grounded 100,000 flights across Europe, costing airlines an estimated $1.7 billion. Now, scientists warn that another Icelandic giant, Katla, may be preparing to erupt, and it could be even more devastating. Despite these dangers, volcano tourism is booming. Every year, thousands hike to Mount Etna's crater, trek across Hawaii's hardened lava fields, and gather to witness Iceland's newest eruptions up close. But is it truly safe? The 2019 White Island disaster in New Zealand was a brutal reminder of how quickly a volcano can turn deadly. 47 tourists were on the island when it erupted without warning. Volcanologists warn that while many volcanoes appear calm, they can erupt with little notice. From the magma chambers lurking beneath Yellowstone to the volcanoes buried under Antarctica's ice, Earth's fiery past, present, and future hold no shortage of mysteries. Along the way, we've tackled the big questions. Could Yellowstone erupt in our lifetime? Would we recognize the warning signs? And could such an eruption change life on Earth forever? But now, let's step back and ask one final question. Should we be worried? Yellowstone isn't overdue. Volcanoes don't erupt on predictable schedules. While seismic activity, ground uplift, and gas emissions are carefully monitored, scientists have found no evidence of an imminent eruption. However, the potential consequences of a supereruption remain staggering: climate disruption, food shortages, economic collapse, and mass displacement. Despite sensational headlines, experts agree there are no major eruptions on the horizon. But Yellowstone's underground activity remains a subject of intense scientific study. Researchers monitor seismic shifts, gas emissions, and ground deformation using thousands of real-time sensors. If Yellowstone showed signs of real danger, we would know long before an eruption occurred. Because Yellowstone's story isn't just about destruction, it's about the raw, untamed energy that drives our planet. It's a reminder that Earth shifts, evolves, and moves on a scale beyond human control. No matter how much we study, this planet doesn't follow our rules, our timelines, or our predictions. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Click on the video that appears on your screen right now. I'm sure you'll love this content. Comment below about the next topic you'd like to see featured on our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.